a little introduction. This coming Sunday is Shivaratri. And so in the morning classes, we've begun reading Song of Lord Shiva. Let me give a little bit of the context. I notice you have your Bhagavatam set up here. Fantastic. So this is Canto 3, Chapter 24. So you might want to look at it later because there's many verses in a row. The context is there are sons of King Prachinibhari. King Prachinibhari, this is very early in Satya Yuga. Very early in Satya Yuga, the Brahma has completed building the universe. Those are from the earlier sections of second canto and third canto. And Swayambhuva Manu is born directly from the body of Lord Brahma, Swayambhuva Manu, and his good wife, Shatarupa. Very interesting. They came an adult feature directly from Lord Brahma's body. And they began the responsibility of two things: giving laws for mankind. That's what one of the functions of Manu. But also providing the means to fill up the universe that Brahma just built or created, sub-created. And King Prachinibhari is appearing early in that stage of the Prajapatis taking that responsibility on. So he, Prachinibhari, requested his sons to assist him in that service. And they were very obedient to their father. So that the first business to produce good praja was to qualify themselves. And that the means for achieving spiritual elevation in the Satya Yuga was meditation, dhyayate. So they had a very special way of doing their meditation. Their meditation plan was to enter into the sea and immersed in water, underwater, engage in meditation. So in other words, no cheating. They had just spending their life heirs, and they were that was their function. Meditation, dhyayate. So as they were going together, just as they were about to enter the ocean or the sea, Lord Shiva came before them with his whole entourage. And they were very surprised. They offered their respects to Lord Shiva very enthusiastically. And he then spoke to them. There's a number of verses. So far we've been largely as introductory verses. But his statement was, I know who you are. You're the sons of Prachinibhari. And I know your intention. Your intention is to produce good children. And I also know that you're great devotees of Vasudeva. So because you're great devotees of Vasudeva, I have come before you. And to explain, normally one doesn't see me, but I've come before you simply because of your devotion. And I want to, so he wanted to encourage them in their life of devotion. So he started giving them some teachings. Eventually he's going to give them some stotras or some prayers that while they're immersed in the ocean, underwater, doing the meditation, they can meditate on the very same prayers that he prays. So if you'd like to know what Lord Shiva does when he's in meditation, read this chapter because it tells us what he does. He says what he does. And so we've only covered a few verses so far, and going towards Sunday we'll cover some more. But I thought that would be a nice topic for tonight. So on the screen you see the verse, the shloka, and it's nice. We chant responsibly a few times the verse itself. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Idam Viviktam Jap Tatvayam Pavitram Mangalam Param Nikshaya Sakaram Chapi Shroyatam Tadvidami Bhav Idam Viviktam Japtavyam Pavitram Mangalam Param Nikshaya Sakaram Chapi Shruyatam Tad Vidami Hava. Translation. Now I shall chant one mantra, which is not only transcendental, pure, and auspicious, but is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to attain the ultimate goal of life. Pretty good introduction, huh? When I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. So a short purport. The word viviktam is very significant. No one should think of the prayers recited by Lord Shiva as being sectarian. Rather, they are very confidential. So much so that anyone desiring the ultimate prosperity or auspicious goal of life must take the instructions of Lord Shiva and pray to and glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Lord Shiva himself did. So the scene, going back a little bit, because the next verse starts with Maitreya Uvacha, the scene goes back to the early parts of Canto 3. The scene is the beginning of Canto 3. Sutta Goswami is asked by the sages of Naimisharanya, long ago you began speaking. So in the first canto, it was described that Vidura went on pilgrimage after being insulted by Duryodhana. He left the royal assembly, left the palace, went on pilgrimage, went to holy places. And while on pilgrimage, he met Maitreya. So chapter 1 of Canto 3 begins, please describe the pilgrimage, please describe his conversations with Maitreya. And so first chapter describes the pilgrimage, and it describes, in course of time, he met Uddhava, and when he met Uddhava, he started asking Uddhava about Dwarka, because Uddhava was so much connected with Dwarka. Now he happened to know, Vidura knew, because he had already been to Prabhas, and he knew that the Yadu dynasty had annihilated itself, and knew the circumstances. But he didn't want to say it. So instead, he just asked Uddhava, how are Krishna and Balaram, how is Ugrasena, how is this one, how is that one? And Uddhava just went, he became so immersed in thought of Krishna that he lost external consciousness. But he likes to serve elders, and Vidura was an elder. So he struggled and came back to external consciousness. And for about a canto and a half, he speaks about Krishna. He speaks about Krishna in his transcendentalness. He speaks about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He speaks about Krishna's pastimes outside of Vrindavan. It's kind of like a little preview of Canto 10, built into a chapter and a half from Canto 1 and 2. And hearing, it's a monologue. He just speaks and speaks and speaks. Very ecstatic. He has such profound love for Krishna. In the end, this went on all day long, all night long, and into the next morning. And he has further, he'd like to hear further. It's been very, very wonderful hearing from you. Here's some further questions. Uddhava says, I've got to go now. Krishna gave me some service, and besides, it wouldn't be proper for me to speak like this when not so far away is Maitreya. Maitreya's most exalted person. Go to Maitreya, he's that away. Vidura went to where Maitreya was, and then there was a wonderful exchange between the two, and Maitreya is asked many questions by Vidura, and of all things he wants to hear about creation and the sub-creation, meaning what Vishnu does, and then what Brahma does, because I'm just giving you a little overview so you get the context. But there are 10 primary topics in Bhagavatam, and that's 2 of them. And they're repeated more than once, but in third canto, so when you open up the book, you know what you're going to get. The process of creation by Lord Vishnu, and after Lord Vishnu does what Lord Vishnu does, the sub-creation. So Sarga and Visarga are narrated by Maitreya. And then when Visarga is finished, when Brahma finishes the creation, Swayambhuva Manu comes, etc., etc., etc. So this is all being narrated by Maitreya to Vidura. And that narration is being told by Sutta to the sages of Naimisharanya. Okay, so that's the context. Text 32, Maitreya says, out of his causeless mercy, the exalted personality, Lord Shiva, a great devotee of Lord Narayana, continued to speak to the king's sons who are standing with folded hands. Purport, Lord Shiva voluntarily came to bless the sons of the king as well as do something beneficial for them. He personally chanted the mantra so that the mantra would be more powerful, meaning you're hearing from a pure devotee, the full potency is experienced even more than if you just read it from a book. So he's doing this gift giving, what great sadhus do, they like to give gifts, but he's giving a transcendental gift. When a mantra is chanted by a great devotee, the mantra becomes more powerful. Although the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is powerful in itself, a disciple, upon initiation, receives the mantra from his spiritual master. For when the mantra is chanted by the spiritual master, it becomes more powerful. Lord Shiva advised the sons of the king to hear him attentively, for inattentive hearing is offensive. So now, here's the beginning of the song. The title of the chapter is Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. So this is the first song or the mantra. Since it's Lord Shiva's song, let's chant it responsibly. Jitam tatma vidvarya swastaya swastir astume Bhavata Radhasa Radham Sarvasma Atmane Namaha. Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the following prayer. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipable by virtue of the all-perfect instructions you give. You are the Supersoul. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you as the Supreme Living Being. And it's a long purport. As soon as a devotee is inspired by the Lord to offer the Lord a prayer, the devotee immediately glorifies the Lord in the beginning by saying, all glories unto you, my Lord. The Lord is glorified because he is considered to be the chief of all self-realized souls. As it is said in the Vedas, Kata Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, the Supreme Being, the Personality of Godhead, is the chief living being amongst all living beings. There are different kinds of individual living beings. Some of them are in this material world, and some are in the spiritual world. Those who are in the spiritual world are known to be completely self-realized, because on the spiritual platform, the living entity is not forgetful of his service to the Lord. Therefore, in the spiritual world, all those who are in the devotional service of the Lord are eternally fixed, for they understand the position of the Supreme Being, as well as their individual constitution. Thus, amongst self-realized souls, the Lord is known as the perfectly self-realized soul, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Nat Chaitananam. When the individual soul is fixed in his knowledge of the Lord as the Supreme Being, he actually becomes established in an all-auspicious position. Lord Shiva prays herein that his auspicious position continue eternally by virtue of the Lord's mercy upon him. Now this is kind of long, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do in this circumstance to read it all. I'll just maybe pause and maybe we'll come back and read another paragraph. I'd like to speak something about Shiva Tattva. We've been discussing a little bit in the morning class. Here's a little review of some of that. Shiva Tattva is very difficult to understand, for starters. He's not Vishnu, and he's not the living entity. He's in his own tattva. So there's Vishnu Tattva, Jiva Tattva, and Shiva Tattva. And Shiva Tattva has a vast range. The simple explanation that's given in Sri Brahma Samhita is, just as there's milk and there's dahi, and they're both milk products, but the distinction is milk in touch with the souring agent becomes dahi. Similarly, Lord Shiva is from Lord Vishnu as the glance of Mahavishnu towards Pradhan for the purpose of creation, and thus the name Shambhu, one of the meanings of this name Shambhu is the glance of Mahavishnu. And when that glance contacts the material energy, Pradhan, that's the souring agent, or the like acid or tamarind or something that contacts milk and curdles the milk. So once the milk is curd or dahi, you can't change it back. You do it because you want to use dahi instead of milk. But so, although dahi is nothing but a milk product, they're different, and yet they're of the same origin. So it's a nice thing to ponder. I've pondered this many times, because all of that is described earlier in this Canto 3, the process of creation. Mahavishnu's glancing. His glancing is very powerful. We glance, it's not so powerful. But his glancing, what happens is, during the period of cosmic annihilation, because creation and annihilation happen in cycles, so during cosmic annihilation, all the Prakriti in its manifest state is withdrawn to an unmanifest state. All the differentiated elements become again merged into pradhan, undifferentiated, totality of material energy, pradhan. And the living entities are withdrawn within the body of Mahavishnu. And the duration of that time cycle is the same as the duration of the creation. The annihilation period is the same cycle of time. And when it's time, again, for cosmic manifestation, two things happen. One is Rama Devi, being the internal potency of Mahavishnu, she knows the desire of her Purusha, the master, her Lord. And his desire is those living entities that are within his body in a dormant state. He wishes for them to have maximum fulfillment of happiness. He just desires, Icha, like that. She knows his desire, and so she takes all those living entities, along with the time energy which is under her control, and entrusts that time energy to his glance. His glance, simultaneously the other desire, as he sees this pradhan, which is likened to the reflection of his internal potency, the shadow of his internal potency, Chaya Devi, the shadow of his internal potency. And she wants some service too, but she's inactive. So he desires her to have fulfillment of some service. Those two desires, living entities, should become happy. His Chaya Devi, she should have some service. Those two desires result in Rama Devi entrusting, this is all in the third canto, entrusting living entities to that glance. The glance is Shambhu. And when the glance contacts material nature, the transformation is now complete. It's no longer milk, it's now dahi. It's no longer Vishnu, but Shiva. Which is, so then many other things happen in the process of the unfolding of the creation. But that Shambhu gets a little delicate. That Shambhu is different than the Lord Shiva that many people worship, who's the one of the avatars of the modes of nature, guna. Guna? Guna means modes of nature, the three gunas. Good is passion and ignorance. And he presides over one of them. That feature, that aspect of Lord Shiva is commonly, not always, but commonly the feature that persons worship when they worship Lord Shiva. That means he's in this world, and he's very magnanimous and munificent, and he bestows benedictions upon people that worship him. So knowing that he's very generous and very kind and magnanimous, he is, persons worship him. So many persons worship him that don't want the highest thing. They want something of this world. So he bestows. And that's one of the large features of the worship of Lord Shiva for persons of this world. But here, he's going out of his way to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as he has worships the Personality of Godhead. There's a statement that appears again and again in the Bhagavatam. This is from the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam, where Lord Shiva is identified as the greatest of all Vaishnavas. Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. Very celebrated phrase. He is respected, he's worshipped, he's honored as the greatest of all Vaishnavas. And what do Vaishnavas want? Vaishnavas want that they want to worship Vishnu, and they want others to also, they want to be with others who want to worship Vishnu. That's why he's come out of the sea with his associates, to give to the Prachetas the very same thing that he has, only hearing it from him, it has special power, potency. So as the song sung by Lord Shiva goes on, there's more and more and more and more and more details of within his prayer. A lot of it is just truths about the Supreme Lord, but the essence is he's a worshipper of the Supreme Lord. Now, there are examples in Ramcharitamanas, for example, where Lord Ram is worshipping Lord Shiva. So, why is Ram worshipping Lord Shiva if Lord Shiva is the worshipper of Lord Vishnu? Does it mean that Lord Shiva is greater and Lord Ram is the worshipper of the one who is greater? Is that how we should understand it? To get into Shiva Tattva, to get into and Vishnu Tattva, let's go to 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna stays in Vrindavan. No, this is not Ram, this is Krishna. Krishna stays in Vrindavan for 10 years, 8 months. He's taken by Akrura to Mathura. He gets engaged with Kamsa and the elephant Kuvalyapita, and finishes the wrestlers, Chanur and Mushtaka, and reinstates Ugrasena as the king, because his son, Kamsa, arrested him and put him in jail. So he freed Ugrasena from jail, he freed his mother and father from jail, and they were very enthusiastic. Not just to be out of jail, but now they're back with their son after 10 years, 8 months. Think about it. And they're pure devotees. They have some understanding that Krishna is the personality of Godhead. At the same time, they have parental affection. And so they wanted him to take Upanayana. So Gargamuni, the same one that did their name-giving ceremony, gave him their sacred threads. Now it's time for school. So Krishna went to school, and in what's today's Ujjain, then at that time it was Avantipur, and in 2 months he finished school. Got a certificate. He gave dakshin to his guru by rescuing his son from the abode of Yamaraj. And then he went back to Mathura. Now he's about 11. And while in Mathura, many things happen, including because he killed Kamsa, the queens who were married to Kamsa went to daddy. Their dad, their father, was Jarasandha. Dad, take revenge. He killed our husband. I'll take revenge. So there's a whole scene of 18 times he comes with many, many, many Akshohini divisions of soldiers to fight. And Krishna finishes all those soldiers because that's part of his purpose. Vinashaya Traduskritam. Then, later, Krishna's off in Dwarka, and something happens. Something very wonderful happens. One of his dearest classmates in the school of Sandipani Muni was a Brahmana named Sudama. Sudama Brahman was married, and he liked renunciation. He liked it so much that he was so lean and thin, his wife was anxiety about his well-being. So she started doing what wives do sometimes. Sometimes it's called nagging, and other times it's thinking of the welfare of her good husband. Please go see Krishna. He's the personality Godhead. He has all wealth. He'll certainly, just because you're a Brahmana and you're a dear friend, in both accounts, surely he'll help you, because I just can't bear seeing you emaciated like this. He was fine, but he thought, it'll be auspicious to go see Krishna. So when he went to see Krishna, what did Krishna do? He worshipped him. Sudama knew that Krishna was the personality of Godhead. But in one of their relationships, one of their diverse relationships, as Lord Shiva and Ram, one of their diverse relationships is that he sat him down and did puja. And Rukmini is there with her chamra fan, and he's washing his feet and offering arti to his devotee. Krishna is worshipping his devotee. No, Krishna liked worshipping his devotee. He's a Brahmana, that's nice, but he's above all, he's a devotee, and he says many nice things to Sudama, and then many other things happen. So I'm narrating that as an example of how, just as Krishna enjoys his greater happiness than being worshipped is worshipping his devotee. In a simpler form is Krishna taking the position of being the servant of Arjuna. That's like everyone knows that one. But Krishna's the personality of God, and Arjuna knows it. And Krishna's being his chariot driver, his chauffeur, his servant. But he likes. So Krishna likes. And Ram likes. So that's part of the understanding of, in Ramcharitamanas, again, it's not in Tulsi Ramayana, but it's well known. The distinction commonly isn't made. And we visited there, Rameshwaram, and visited the place where Ram worshipped Lord Shiva. Certainly the Shiva Linga is still there. Because he likes. He doesn't have any need. He fulfills everyone's needs. That was one of the verses that we just read. Nityo, a playful girl, huh? Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam. This is the important part. The Eka, the one, maintains the many. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. The desires of the Bahu, the many, are fulfilled by the one. Qualitatively, the jiva is the same as Vishnu. Quantitatively, they're different. They're both eternal. Nityo, Nityanam. Nityanam is plural. Amongst all living entities, there's one supreme living entity. of all conscious beings, one is supremely conscious being. That supremely conscious being is maintaining the many, all their necessities, everything. Whatever we have, it comes from that one source. It doesn't come from us. Illusion is to think it comes from us. So it's a mistake to take the action of Ram worshipping Lord Shiva as Shiva is in the superior position, and Lord Ramachandra is in a subordinate position worshipping the superior. It's an act of love, and we should see it that way, between the Lord and his servant. Here's another example. In Tulsi Ramcharitamanas, during the coronation, when Ram comes back, it's a big festival. It's a very beautiful painting. I'm going to be showing this during Shivaratri at the temple in Hartford, where I'm going to be. In the upper portion of the painting, there's the three queens. There's Ram and Sita, and the ceremony is going on. And there's the devas. So according to Ramcharitamanas, at the time of Ram's coronation, he asks Ram for the benediction that I may be eternally engaged in your service. In the same Ramcharitamanas that indicates Ram was worshipping Lord Shiva. It should be understood, rightly, that there's love. And when there's love, no one's keeping score. If it's business, we're keeping score. I did this for you, I'm expecting that back. It happens. It's not love, it's business. So when there's love, it's so the lover loves serving the beloved loves serving the so same with Sudama Brahman. Same when there's a loving dealing. So there's very strong loving exchange between Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu or Krishna or Ramchandra, or here in this section. Encourage you to read it if your time permits. He's going through in his song of Lord Shiva, Sankarshan, Pradumna, Aniruddha, and Vasudeva, and he describes the functions of each one, the functions in the body, the function in the spiritual realm, and specifically, Lord Shiva, is a worshipper of Sankarshan. There's many, many, many details. The details are wonderful. But it's just staying with the principle. So here's a detail. It's described in Brihat Bhagavatamrita that when it's time for cosmic annihilation, flames come from the mouths of Anantashesh. First, before the flames come from Anantashesh, there's no rain. Things become dry, very highly inflammable. From the mouth of Anantashesh comes fire at the bottom of the universe. Because Anantashesh is holding up the universe. Or the hoods, on his hoods, the planets are resting and they're very dry. And then the 11 Rudras are manifest from Sankarshan. And they begin their dance. And as they dance, the flames spread and engulfs the universe in fire. Then it's gone. The time energy is withdrawn, and everything goes back into its unmanifest state. If you're going to be a creator, that's a nice way to do it. And that's the way the Bhagavatam and the Vedas describe that process of creation and annihilation. So he has a role to play, and he worships during the cosmic manifestation. When he's doing his meditation, upon what is he meditating? Meditating on Sankarshan. And these prayers in this chapter are the prayers that he recites. And very interesting is in the so after he finishes these prayers, the prachetas offer their respects to Lord Shiva. He withdraws, and they now go forward with their what they came to the sea to do their meditation. They're doing their meditation within the sea, but always chanting these stotras, these prayers that Lord Shiva gave them. And much to their amazement, Lord Vishnu descends in the sea, standing on the back of Garuda. And they're most amazed, and they offer their prayers to Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu offers his benedictions to them. You know, they're achieved spiritual perfection in worship of Lord Vishnu by the grace of Lord Shiva. Because he likes. So let's say it this way. Supposing you're a perfect devotee. Close your eyes and imagine you become somehow a perfect devotee. And people have worldly needs. And you're capable of fulfilling their worldly needs, so you very kindly and charitably disposed fulfill people's worldly needs. And along with the people that you're interacting with, there are some that are advancing spiritually, and they're keen on making their connection with the personality of Godhead. Oh, how wonderful. So you give that to them, and that's the greatest gift that you have to offer. And you're very happy to give the greatest gift. But other persons don't want it, so you may not give it. But those who want it, you give it. So he's very happy. Lord Shiva is very happy. And according to Padma Purana, there are 4 primary, still intact to this day, disciplic successions, or lines that come from the personality of Godhead present in the world today. I mean, just last night at George Mason University program, there's one, towards the end, there's one girl towards the front, totally new person, totally, I mean, she didn't even know what Bhagavad Gita was. I heard about it, but I don't know what it is. Is it about Hinduism? That was her, that same one. But so at the very end, her question was, isn't it important to have a teacher? So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, there's description of the disciplic succession. And when the disciplic succession is broken, then knowledge is lost. So it's not just reading a book, but having knowledge in disciplic succession. So those 4 still intact disciplic successions mentioned in Padma Purana, Lord Shiva is the head of one of them. But what's that disciplic succession for? It's giving the same knowledge that the other ones give. And the same knowledge is worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He likes. He does other things, many other things. He destroys the universe. And he gives benedictions, sometimes to bad people. But he does in such a way that it's a trick. It's described without going into details. But the greatest gift that he gives is what he's giving to the prachetas, and they achieve spiritual perfection. And one can only imagine. They're doing this service on behalf of their father, but the service of producing praja is one thing, and achieving the association, the personal darshan of Lord Vishnu is another thing. And that was the gift of Lord Shiva. Of course, they had some stotras to chant and some purification to undergo, but it was by his grace, by his kindness, that they got that benefit. You 3 know each other, huh? You're close to the same age? Not exactly, but close. Nice to see you. You're all smiles. So you sit together. And you're sitting in the front row, too. That's like fantastic. So that there's much more to say on the topic, but I'll stop because there's too much more to say. I'm going to be giving a class on Saturday evening. That's like, it's a postgraduate study of the topic of Lord Shiva, Shiva Tattva, from many, many places I've gathered, presenting. And then on Sunday, I'm letting you know so you might want to attend or hear the recording of it or something, is the Lord Shiva's interaction with Krishna, with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's some interaction. They meet in the course of Mahaprabhu's South Indian tour. Shiva's interaction with Krishna, Shiva's interaction with Rama, and Shiva's interaction with Sankarshan. And it's very interesting. There's two cases. One where Krishna is worshipping Shiva. One we've already mentioned, the Shiva Linga situation at Rameshwaram. Another is found in Mahabharata. In Mahabharata, Krishna worships Lord Shiva to have a son with his wife Jambavati. It's in Mahabharata. It's not long, but there's mention. There's a beautiful painting of Krishna kneeling, Lord Shiva standing, and the painting is to illustrate this passage from Mahabharata. And there's a son, Samba. Now, Krishna doesn't need to ask Lord Shiva for anything, because he's the source of everything. But it's a loving exchange, and he's very happy. And he gives the benediction, and there's a nice son, Samba. So those situations, one more time, at least the way that the Sattvic or Sattvata scriptures describe it's a loving exchange between the Lord and his devotee. And Lord Shiva is very clear. He's the Lord and I'm the devotee. He's very clear. But Krishna likes interacting with his devotees sometimes when the devotee is in the more exalted position. There's many such examples, like Krishna and Sudama Brahman. Many such examples he likes. So that's how we should understand those situations. And there's in the exchange of love, they're not, I'm the senior and you're the junior. It's not like that. It's not like that. Love isn't like that. Mature relationships may be like that, but love isn't like that. Nonetheless, Lord Shiva looks up and he worships, like this example from Ramcharitmanas. By asking you for this benediction, you're now the king, please give me this benediction that forever, eternally, I can be engaged in your service. So, that's his mood. See if there's any... We've had some lively discussion in the morning classes. Once it gets started, it doesn't want to stop. Comments or questions? This interesting and delicate topic. Yes?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I'd like to understand the relationship between Shambhu, Lord Shiva that we know, and the Rudras.
As we discussed in the morning, this nomenclature depends on context. One term can apply to many different situations. depending upon the context. So to narrow it down would take, listing the different. And I don't know if this is the right forum for that. They're common ones. Rudra, the common one for Rudra is the 11 Rudras that are born from the body of Lord Brahma, and their function is violent destruction. They go to Brahma to attack Brahma, who just produced them, and he tells them stop. So they stop. And you can go to the lower regions of the universe and just wait there. There'll be a time for your destruction. Don't worry, I'll call on you when the time is needed. So they go. It's in Mahakalapur. But then there's Mahakalapur. There's several of those Mahakalapurs depending upon the function. But generally speaking, Rudra, the 11 Rudras are in that position in the structure of the universe and their function in the universe. And there's others. Shambhu, similarly, different applications of that term depending upon the context. But one of the primary ones is the glance of Mahavishnu. And there's others, depending on context.
So all of them are in the Siva Tattva, is that right?
There's Shiva Tattva, yes. And Shiva Tattva is very diverse. He has many functions. He likes serving. And he has many functions in service. And a number of those functions are beyond the coverings of the universe. And a number of those functions are within the coverings of the universe. And he has a big range. And those expansions of him do those different things. A term that's used often is Mula Sankarshan. Mula means root, and Sankarshan is that source from which Brahma, Rudra, or Lord Shiva emanates. So from Mula Sankarshan comes his first expansion. Sankarshan. Mula Sankarshan has his first expansion. Sankarshan in Vaikuntha realm. Anyway, it's very complicated. And that Sankarshan has his expansion. It's one of those expansions that comes from the brow of Lord Brahma. Some of the Puranas, our acharyas explained that some of the Puranas say he doesn't come from, not just that he comes from the brow of Brahma, he comes from the brow of Vishnu. It's push my button and we just get all really confusing. So there's so much diversity, it's hard. The tendency is to put it in a bucket, just like keep it over in that bucket. If it's not in that bucket and it starts to go all over the place, then it gets confusing. But keeping it very simple, the main function is service to the Supreme. And there's many services he does in this world and beyond this world. And he has different abodes where he does those services. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
The senior lady of the house is going to speak. I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
My humble pranam to Gurudev Maharaj. I'm so happy to be at your lotus feet. I have recently joined Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. I'm quite new. So, my question, or you can say my curiosity, is to know in quite detail about Krishna consciousness so that I may start my journey properly. I want to understand that consciousness.
Well, that's a very broad topic. And I think a good place to start with that very broad topic is the teaching that's found where Prahlad Maharaj, you know who is Prahlad Maharaj? Prahlad Maharaj is describing the processes of bhakti. And the processes of bhakti start with Shravanam. Then after you heard something, you kirtanam. Exactly what Lord Shiva is saying. Listen carefully, because he wants them to recite it. And they can, because just by hearing, they're going to be able to remember it, because it's not Kali Yuga yet. They have good memories. They can hear it once and remember it. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam. For most of us, it's Shravanam, Kirtanam many, many times, because our memories are short. But so the process starts with Shravanam and Kirtanam, and again. Then comes Smaranam, Vishnu, Smaranam, remembrance. It's just a reawakening what we've forgotten. That is to say, who we are and our relationship with Krishna, our Krishna consciousness, is already there, dormant, like a seed. Has life in it, and it can stay around for a long time, years and years and years, hundreds of years, and it still has life inside until it's sprouted, and then life comes out from the seed. So like that, like a seed has life inside, so we also have Krishna consciousness within, but it's dormant. And the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam is a way of awakening that which is already there, but forgotten and covered by so much other stuff. But this other stuff is forgetfulness. And you remove some forgetfulness and move layers and layers and layers of forgetfulness and awaken remembrance. That's Krishna consciousness. That's the primary, how you want to know how to begin, Shravanam Kirtanam. And hearing about what? Hearing about Vishnu, or hearing about the personality of Godhead. And there's many ways to do that. Chanting a mantra, just like we did at the very beginning, the Jaya, Radha, Madhava, names of Krishna and Vrindavan, just hearing, or hearing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, or reading the shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, just hearing them, and the commentary to help us understand the meaning that we should be receiving. Anyway, so that's how to begin. And it's quite natural. That is to say, the example is given like a child learning to walk. And a baby doesn't know how to walk, but the walking capacity is within by practice and practice and practice. The walking capacity becomes crawling, and the crawling becomes walking, the walking becomes running, and because it's innate. So the process, reawakening or remembering what we've forgotten. And it's the primary beginning is Shravanam Kirtanam. Then Archanam, deity worship, has its place too. Archanam. But the foundation of that Archanam process or deity worship process is Shravanam Kirtanam. So we do a lot of that together. Okay.
Thanks is a very small word. I don't want to say it. I want to come to your feet.
Uh-oh.
Whatever you have given.
Uh-oh. I'm embarrassed. You're so senior.